Hi, I'm Jerry from Attic Treasures in Occoquan, Virginia. Welcome to my living room or my sewing room. And for this month's Sew Creative Club project, we have this wonderful pillow cover with a St. Patrick's Day theme. The design can be used for a tote bag, a pillow. You could even frame it if you like. But this, I've decided that it'd be nice to change out your pillows because you kind of get sick of them on the couch every once in a while. And this is a quick and easy way to change out your pillows so that they look interesting. Okay, so for this, what I've selected was I just had a red pillow, a rectangular pillow. And I've just selected just a white linen that I'm going to use for the embroidery. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with the pillow of your choice, and you want to select a rectangular shaped pillow. So in order to make the sleeve, what we're going to do is to cut a piece of fabric that we're going to embroider on. And it needs to be, you want to take the width of the pillow, and this is about 14.5 inches, and you want to subtract 3 inches. So you're going to cut your piece of fabric 3 inches less than the width of the pillow, and that way you'll see it's going to show you the edges after I finish hemming this. Okay, you want to measure all the way around your pillow and add about 4 inches to that so that this will overlap and you'll be able to either put buttons or Velcro. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to press this really well, and it helps to put a crease mark in the exact center, both horizontally and vertically. You might want to spray it with this Terreal Magic, which is like super starch, and it is fantastic for doing any kind of embroidery on a woven fabric. It'll keep that embroidery from distorting. It also makes it very stiff and adds a lot of stabilization to the fabric. Okay, I have marked the center. I've pressed it really well and put some of this Terreal Magic on it, made it nice and stiff. As you see, I've marked the crosshairs. Although a fold will be sufficient, I just want you to see the crosshair markings. And I've put a piece of tearaway stabilizer behind it. I'm just using a tearaway firm. Okay, I'm going to use my template. So this is going to show you how to use the template. So find the top of the hoop, and the top of the hoop has got 2 little arrows. I'm going to look at this template so that I can see the letters ABC and place it in the notches. Okay, and now I'm going to line up the center crosshairs and the center crosshairs with the lines that I've marked. Now, a lot of times people have a hard time hooping this large hoop. I like to actually hoop on a slippery surface so that I can slide things. So I'm going to line up those crosshairs with the marks that I've made. Put 2 edges inside the bottom hoop. Take your fingers, take your thumbs and push down on the table. Take your fingers and push. Pinch it closed, so now the entire hoop is lined up. And you can see if you turned it a little bit. And now just use a little pressure. And see now, if you can see it, it's perfectly lined up. So I'm going to tighten the screws, and now onto the embroidery machine. You, of course, take your template out. You do not want to sew through that. Okay, let's go to the embroidery machine. I have loaded my embroidery design into the sewing machine with a jump stick. And then I have just put my hoop into my machine, and I'm going to just embroider the design. I'm not going to bore you with making you watch me embroider this whole design because it's got quite a few stitches. and it will take 38 minutes to stitch out because there's approximately 19,000 stitches in it. So I will be right back as soon as I'm done embroidering. Bye. Okay, now we've finished sewing it, so I'm going to take it to the ironing board, take it out of the hoop, remove the stabilizer, and give it a good pressing, and then we'll construct the pillow sleeve. Okay, I have finished embroidering it and pressed it rather nice. I used a little bit of starch and I pressed it face down on a towel, and that really makes the embroidery pop out and become almost three-dimensional. I have pressed a double 1/4 inch hem, actually a little more than a 1/4 inch, on the back to press it over. There's different ways you can finish the edge of this. You could just do it just a top stitch, just make it plain and simple. I could take my serger with some pretty decorative threads and either do the wave stitch or a very nice 3-thread wide overlock with some heavy threads like designer 6 or designer 7 or Lana thread or woolly nylon. Anything would do nice to finish the edges. I could bind it with a pretty colorful binding. I could put trim on it, lace, any way you want to finish these edges. I think what I want to do is I want to use some of my decorative stitches. My machines have wonderful decorative stitches. I hardly ever use them. So this would be a really good opportunity to make the edging a little fancier by just adding some decorative stitching. So I've set up my machine to a decorative stitch that I liked, and I tested it to see if it was one I would like. I tried this one. I didn't particularly like it, so I think I'd like this stitch. So I've set the end foot on my sewing machine. Okay, I'm going to start stitching at the end. I haven't hemmed the short ends of it yet. I'll do that after I'm done with decorative stitching. I'm just taking strips of tearaway stabilizer, just putting it underneath just to give that fabric a little more support. And I'm just going to stitch away. And I'm going to just use the edge of my foot as the guide. And you don't want to push it, you just want to let the machine sort of go at its own pace. If you pull it or push it, what will happen is that you're going to distort the pattern. Sorry, keep hitting the gamma. Okay, I'll continue stitching this on my own. Okay, I've finished the decorative stitching. I think that looks rather nice, and I've removed the strips of stabilizer from behind it. So now I'm ready to go ahead and measure this on the pillow, and then I'm going to square off the ends. I'm going to press it under by a 1/2 inch, then fold it in another inch, and then I'm going to top stitch this down, and then one end will have buttons and the other end will have buttonholes, or you could actually sew strips of Velcro on here or hook and loop tape on here as well in order to attach the pillow cover to the pillow. Okay, let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I have pressed down each end with a 1/4 inch, and then I folded about 1 1/4 inches over, and I've just loaded white thread into my machine, and I am going to just simply sew a straight stitch across, back tacking along the edge just to make the hem at each end of the pillow cover. Tack, and I'll clip the threads, and now for the other side. You could pin it, but I've given it a rather decent press, so I I don't have to pin it. Okay, so I'm going to mark the placement of my button. Come a little closer. And I'm going to mark the starting part of my buttonhole. So I'm going to just make a T. So I can place them where I want them. Probably, I'm just going to eyeball it, but it's sort of in the center. I'll make a T down the center. And then this one right about here. I'm going to make it a little bigger than I normally do, just so you can see it. You can see the little T's. Okay. A button in my buttonhole foot. Take that off. Okay. And put the buttonhole foot so that the button is in the very back. I'm just going to select a plain, ordinary, straight buttonhole. Actually, I'm going to make it so that the T is facing, it's going to be an upside down T. Because the beginning of that is where I want it to, where my buttonhole to start. So what I've done is on the foot, take this off, show you. On the front of the foot are these little green and red lines. So those are where I'm going to put I'm going to line up the markings on my fabric with this. So take the upside down T and I'm just going to line the upside down T right in the center. Let's get that straight. And I'm going to lower the buttonhole lever, which is just to the left of the presser bar, and lower that down so that it goes between the two white posts. I call it go between the goal posts. And just let her rip. I'm just going to hit the button. And it's going to make a buttonhole perfectly sized. And now you'll see that this button hole is perfectly sized for this particular button. So I'll go ahead and make the other two buttonholes off camera. And what's nice about this buttonhole on this machine is that every buttonhole is exactly the same. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up these buttonholes. I'm just going to use an ordinary seam ripper. It's nice if you have the buttonhole chisels, but I don't happen to have a set. So if you're going to, how you open up the buttonhole without cutting those bar tacks at the end is sometimes a little tricky. You don't want to cut those bar tacks because it renders the buttonhole useless. So anyway, I'm just going to cut into the middle. I start here at one end, poke it down, cut just to the middle, and I've cut the middle before and now it's cut through. Sometimes it helps to put a little fray check on the inside of that so that it won't ravel. Again, what I do is put the seam ripper straight down at the edge of the bar tack. Don't go any further than the middle. Turn it over, do the same thing. And then see how I'm coming out. Now I am in no danger of cutting the end of the bar tack. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make the placement for the buttons. Okay, to make the alignment for the buttons, I'm going to just overlap one end to the other. Take my trusty friction pen, now that the buttonholes are opened up, and just make a little mark in the center of every buttonhole. Now this is the placement for the buttons. In fact, we're going to sew these buttons on by machine as well. I even have a button sewing setting on my machine. It looks like a little circle. Let's see if I can show that to you. It looks like a little circle right here that has a little line through it. That sets everything up for the buttonhole, at least for most buttons. What it won't set up for is little doll buttons, and if you have the little doll buttons, the holes are closer together, so then you would have to adjust your stitch. Okay, and here is the button foot. It has a little blue piece in the front. Okay. And then I'm going to place the button in the center of the mark. And then line that up. Then what I'm going to do is hand walk so that both sides, so that I know that the needle is clearing both sides. Okay, I'm making sure that it's clearing both sides. Once it does, I can just simply hit the button and it's already sewing it on. Okay, next button. Now you can tie these through. You can leave the tails long, pull them through to the back, and then just tie them off, but this is not something that's going to be worn, so I'm not too concerned. Okay, and then again I'm going to do the second button, making sure that it clears both holes, and if it does, just hit the button and it's done. And last but not least, here's this button. And that way they won't come off. Okay, we're finished, and I'm going to give it a good press. Okay, it's all finished. So here is the design. Here's the pillow slip, so I'm just going to turn the pillow over and button this in place. Buttons fit really nice. Okay. There, it's all finished. So this looks really nice, both front and back. And now you have a changeable pillow cover. Changes the whole look of the pillow.